7 countries where the Bible is forbidden. The shocking truth about the final nation. Few knew what truly happened that night in the outskirts of Samaria, where the rolling hills cloaked secrets spoken only in whispers. Dim torches flickered, casting shadows that danced against the stone walls of the humble village. The air was thick with tension, and a shroud of darkness lingered, heavy with anticipation. Ancient tales told of miraculous power found within the sacred pages of a book censored, hidden, and outlawed in places where despair clawed at the hearts of millions. Israel's history breathed life into every crack of the earth beneath one's feet. This land, once a beacon of divine messages, was now marred by prohibition and fear. Samaria had witnessed the miraculous turn to tragedy. A once vibrant faith now suffocated beneath the weight of authoritarian silence. Imagine plucking an apple from a tree, only to discover its core is teeming with poison. This was the agonizing reality. People prayed in secret, their hopes flickering like the fading flames, but how did it come to this? Men of the cloth rallied behind masks of fraternity, yet glances exchanged spoke of treachery. Leaders whispered sweet promises with tongues that turned bitter, shunning the written word believed to offer solace and salvation. Stories passed through hushed mouths. A young boy once healed from blindness allegedly discovered a fragment of text, and the next day, he vanished without a trace. Mothers gripped their children's hands more tightly, hearts pounding with fear frozen in time, as children were beckoned into darker rooms, forbidden to question the power they were meant to embrace, and then, in a moment surrounded by a thick fog of doubt, the earth trembled. Could divine hands still reach those who were barred from the light? A rift opened on the horizon. Intrigued whispers circulated like wildfire. Miracles were suspected, rippling through the minds of the oppressed. Could God's presence be glimpsed in the cracks of their reality? Or was it only wishful thinking that led them to perilous paths? The fabric of hope began to unravel. Would the truth, long shackled, find a way to reclaim its voice, or would it slip further into obscurity? The tension hung thick, a question lingering in every heart. Could the sacred word rise again in places where it was once silenced? Echoes of yearning filled the night, steeped in mystery. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night deepened, cloaking the village in an unsettling quiet. The torches, though flickering, began to burn down, their once vibrant flames giving way to embers. As the shadows shifted, unseen eyes watched and waited, the weight of their collective sorrow intertwining. In a hidden alcove, a small group gathered, a mixture of aged faces etched with lines of hardship and youthful expressions illuminated by defiance. Baruch, an elder among them, held out an ancient scroll, the edges frayed but the verses still vibrant. His voice quivered as he whispered, "This was entrusted to me in secret. It carries words that the world intends to forget." He carefully unfurled the scroll, revealing sacred text to the flickering light. The young were captivated, mouths parted in awe, minds spinning with possibilities woven within the sacred words. "What does it say?" A brave voice broke the silence, a girl with eyes that reflected both hope and uncertainty. Baruch's gaze softened as he absorbed the innocence of youth, undimmed even in darkness. "It speaks of light in the shadow, comfort for the afflicted, and a promise of freedom," he replied, flowing words evoking a gentle strength that stirred their souls, yet beneath the fluttering hopes, questions filled the air like smoke. "What good are these words if we cannot share them?" A young man's voice, tinged with desperation, echoed through their clandestine gathering. The thirst for truth was as tangible as the chilled night. They knew well the risks surrounding them, the watchful eyes patrolling the village, the heavy hand of authority ready to extinguish flickers of resistance. "That we must remember," Baruch imparted solemnly, that voices long silenced can still resound through our actions and our faith. We may not lift our hands openly, but our hearts can embrace the truths they seek to suppress. The group nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation, yet defiance began to kindle within them. As their whispered conversations continued, stories emerged like threads woven into a larger tapestry, tales of ancestors defying tyrants, the hidden wayfaring prophets who spoke truths despite the risk of persecution. Each narrative carried a sacred weight, reminding them that they were part of a lineage that had endured trials far greater than their own. Outside, however, the world remained unchanged. Hills stood sentinel as the winds kept their secrets. The villagers, muted by fear, paused their daily lives, lest they draw attention to the fire that flickered within the hearts of a few. And even as they sought the light, a darkness emerged among the village leaders, each one echoing a pact of silence, a fear of revealing a past that had intertwined with the forbidden texts. Weeks passed, and the collective breaths of the villagers measured cautiously against the silent wind. A warning lingered in the distance, an unspoken understanding that the rulers were aware of stirrings in the Shadowsa flicker of life the oppressors sought to snuff out before it could break into a blaze. On a night when the moon was veiled behind a tapestry of clouds, the group convened again, drawn together by an invisible thread of purpose. What if we take the words of this scroll into the world? A youthful voice suggested, eyes sparking with excitement. Could we share them even in silence? Perhaps we could write them, share them as whispers to those who gather at the marketplace, in corners where ears may listen and hearts may yearn. Baruch sighed, contemplating the magnitude of risk yet recognizing the pulsing vitality of hope. To dream of freedom is the first step, he said, his voice steady but cautious. But each step we take may lead to a greater reckoning. As they strategized amidst their hushed voices, a profound question hung over them like the shadow of the moon. If the gift of the word could endure long after the first light of sunrise, what shadows might they yet face in seeking to unveil the truth? Would the fragile threads of hope hold, or would the darkness consume their efforts before they could take root? The uncertainty loomed, echoing within each heart, a mystery yearning to be examined. The chill of the night air felt heavy with anticipation as Baruch and the young gathered once more in their chosen alcove, each heart drumming softly with hope and trepidation. The ancient scroll lay before them, its ink still resonating with the voices of those who had come before. Yet, there was a palpable shift in their spirits, an urgency pressed upon them as the whispers of their surroundings heightened. Tonight is different, whispered Asher, a boy whose spirit had matured under the weight of their gatherings. The villages have grown restless, I can sense it. There is an ache for change. The others nodded, their faces reflecting his sentiment, a shared awareness that rippled through the air like charged particles, waiting to spark. Baruch observed their fervor with mixed feelings, the warmth of their energy both inspiring and daunting. Change, my children, does not come easily, he reminded them gently, his voice softening the edge of reality's sharp truth. To move against the current requires not just courage, but wisdom. Each step must be tread carefully. The moon, now partially unveiled, cast silver light on them, guiding their intentions yet shrouding their actions in anonymity. With resolute hearts, they spoke of their visions to weave the scroll's messages into a fabric of courageous share. They devised plans to disperse phrases and passages like gentle seeds into the soil of public consciousness at marketplaces, where the din of conversation could bury whispers of revelation, yet return with the sun's light. But the very thought of confrontation with governing eyes sent shivers across their collective spine. Will we remember the weight of our ancestors' struggles? A young girl, Miriam, queried gently, and let their spirits guide our tongues? Will courage not only be our shield but also the flame that ignites the hearts of others? Her eyes glimmered with the fervor of her convictions, yet uncertainty lingered beneath. The question brought silence upon them, as if they must consult the very fabric of their existence. Baruch smiled, a blend of warmth and caution illuminating his features. We cannot forget them. It is imperative we stand for justice and truth, however, we must also ground ourselves in understanding. The shadows may yet hold truths we cannot divine alone. Each word hung in the air, as the flickering light illuminated not only their faces but also their fears and aspirations. As the echoes of their discussions continued to stretch, the air thickened with the enormity of their undertaking, together they crafted responses to their own fears. They resolved to write down their thoughts, ensuring the scroll's wisdom would transcend their fears, giving voice to the stars that had illuminated their ancestors' journeys. In writing, they might balance the unseen danger that a spoken word would carry. As Baruch prepared to lead them in prayer, he spoke, "Let us invoke the spirits of old, asking for guidance and fortitude. The night is dark, yes, but it is in such depths that prophets have risen, guided by whispers that reached even the ears of those in power. As they raised their voices in a melody of softness and strength, the vibrations of their shared spirit wove through the shadows, inviting awareness to realms unseen. Yet, even as they ceased, a haunting thought persisted, a hidden question that pressed at the edges of their minds: how much was asked of them, and at what cost could their truth be pursued? In seeking the light, would they merely unearth more layers of shadow, exposing themselves to deeper peril? Will each revelation forge a new bond, or would it function as a wedge, driving them further from solidarity? As the echoes of their prayer reverberated into the night, the stillness enveloped them like a heavy cloak, imbuing the air with a sense of both solemnity and expectation. Baruch opened his eyes slowly, aware of the weight of responsibility that now rested upon their fragile band of dreamers. He gazed into the faces surrounding him, each one a flickering flame struggling against the winds that sought to extinguish it. "Let us also remember," he said, his voice scarcely above a whisper, "the stories that are waiting to be told. Not only those inscribed in our sacred texts, but the ones woven into the very fabric of our existence. Every soul gathered tonight has a narrative, a piece of divine history yearning for recognition. This is our time, and the air is heavy with promise." As if summoned by his words, a sudden rustle emerged from the nearby thicket, the sound startling some of the youths. A flicker of movement caught their eyes, and as they turned, an elder emerged, someone who had been a fixture in their community, known for his wisdom and insight. His name was Eliakim, and he carried an air of gravity that demanded attention. Baruch nodded respectfully to him. "Eliakim, we were just discussing the storms we feel about to break over the horizon. What brings you to our gathering?" The elder settled himself on a worn stone, his weathered hands resting on his knees, and looked at the young faces before him. "There is a moment, my dear ones, when tension arises just before the storm. It is then we must clothe ourselves with understanding. Have you questioned what may lie at the heart of the governing eyes that watch us?" His gaze pierced through the darkness as if reaching into their souls. Miriam, emboldened by the elder's presence, dared to ask, "What can stir their hearts and awaken their understanding? Shouldn't they embrace the light we seek to proclaim rather than shun it?" Eliakim chuckled gently, the sound like dry leaves befriending the wind. "Ah, child, it is not so simple. Power is often guarded by fear. The fruits of change are often viewed as bitter by those who have had their fill of control. Their silence may be the echo of men lost and torn between their desires for authority and the truth that erupts like a fire breaking through the branches above. Then what do we do?" asked Asher, the youthful fervor flooding his voice again. "If the heart of authority is bound in chains, how do we lift their veil of ignorance without being crushed in the process?" Eliakim paused, contemplating the essence of his next words. "The answer lies within the very stories they fear to hear. Each soul has the power to resonate and reflect truths that, once unveiled, can illuminate even the darkest hearts. You must become the storytellers, the bearers of light. But, beware, the cost stories can wield a power of their own, often demanding sacrifice before true freedom can emerge. What you share may forge paths, yet it may also unveil your vulnerabilities." Baruch felt a chill, the elder's words echoing in his mind as if they were prophecies. He recalled the threads of history intertwining their destinies, where those who sought to speak the truth often found themselves at a precipice where hope and despair waged their eternal battle. "Then how do we weave this truth, Eliakim?" he asked, seeking clarity amidst the shadows looming over their aspirations. "How do we present it to those who deem it forbidden?" "Patience and insight are your companions," replied Eliakim, a soft intensity radiating from his aged eyes. "Allow your hearts to be his instruments, speaking with love rather than anger. Plant seeds in the gardens navigated by those who wish to listen. Be prepared for the deep roots of your words to grow in the unseen places, nourishing compassion and empathy in the soul of those who listen. Yet, be mindful their fear may lead them to bury the truth you present, lest they face their reflection and the change it compels. As Eliakim's counsel hung heavily in the night, Baruch and the young ones felt a shiver of understanding cascade through them. They were left with a profound responsibility. They must learn not only to speak truths but also to listen to the unsung stories that resided in the hearts of those they hoped to reach. They sat in contemplative silence, each one grappling with the layers of what had been revealed. A new question began to form, palpable yet elusive, radiating at the edge of their collective consciousness. What would it truly take to share their truth without losing their own essence to a world that had deemed it a forbidden flame? And in bending their reach toward others, might they find themselves caught in a delicate balance between liberation and sacrifice? The night deepened, wrapping the group in its velvet embrace, and the air seemed to hum with promise and uncertainty. Baruch felt the weight of their collective silence pressing upon him as they absorbed Eliakim's parting wisdom. It was now clear that each story shared would be an act of vulnerability, a confrontation not just with the authority they sought to unravel, but of the fears lurking within their own hearts as well. As the stars began to emerge, flickering like distant lanterns igniting the vastness around them, Miriam spoke again, her voice trembling yet resolute. What if we are not enough? What if our words fall on deaf ears? How do we draw forth the truth that lies dormant in others, buried beneath layers of hurt and despondency? Eliakim's gaze softened. The act of speaking is but one facet of truth. Often, it is in the quiet moments, the shared laughter, the compassionate touch, the listening ear where the most profound exchanges occur. You are not alone in this endeavor. Your shared existence can create a tapestry of experiences, where each thread holds the potential to ignite hope. Asher, keeping close to the elder's wisdom, leaned forward. Then how do we remain steadfast in our commitment to this path, knowing that it could lead us into peril? How do we preserve our spirits when faced with disdain or hostility? Faith, Eliakim replied simply, is the compass that will guide you through the storm. It is the unwavering belief that your efforts hold meaning, that even the smallest flicker of light can shatter the heaviest darkness. Do not seek to convert hearts with force, rather, let your steadfastness be a gentle call. In nurturing your own spirits, you provide warmth to the very embers you hope to ignite within others. As the elder finished speaking, Baruch felt a spark ignite within him, the heavy cloak of responsibility now transforming into a mantle of purpose. He looked at his companions, a mosaic of hope and trepidation, and noted the furrows in their brows in acknowledgement of the journey ahead. What if our stories, our faith, touched the hearts of not only the weary but also the powerful? How might they respond to the truth when unveiled? Eliakim's expression grew solemn. Beware that the powerful often listen with ears trained to resist. Their inclinations toward authority may blind them to the truth at first. Still, it is imbued in the fabric of human connection, universal, transcending walls devised by fear. Stand firm, be compassionate, and prepare for the journey to be testing. It will demand every piece of your being. The weight of Eliakim's words settled firmly within Baruch's heart, and he took a deep breath, pondering what lay ahead. The breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it a tension that felt almost electric, as if the spirits of past storytellers lingered in anticipation. Indeed, our tales will be threads woven into a tapestry much larger than ourselves, Baruch reflected. But who will guide us in understanding the right stories to tell? How do we know which truths will resonate and which will only serve to deepen the divide? A flicker of uncertainty crossed Miriam's face, but she held on to it, allowing it to become a vessel for deeper inquiry. Perhaps it is not our place to determine which stories are significant, but rather to listen carefully, to watch the hearts of those among us. Could it be that the stories we yearn to share are not always our own? That we speak for those who have no voice, lifting their truths to the surface in the hope of healing collective wounds? Echoes of her words reverberated into the night as the group became lost in thought, contemplating the enormity of their mission. They understood therein lay the beauty and the burden of their endeavor. Every act of storytelling, an act of creation, a gift wrapped in the uncertainty of acceptance or rejection. As the dawn light began to edge into the horizon, a new question lingered in the silence, hovering like the first rays of sun seeking to break through darkness. How might they discern the stories that needed to be told? without losing sight of their own journeys in the process? And in seeking to give a voice to the voiceless, would they end up sacrificing their own in the desired quest for liberation? As the first whispers of dawn kissed the horizon, the flickering stars began to fade into the light, each departing pinprick a soft resignation to the coming day. The air felt charged, as if the world were holding its breath, and the group remained tangled in contemplation, bound by the gravity of their task. Baruch turned his gaze away from the early light back to his companions, sensing an unspoken need to solidify their purpose. Miriam's words resonate deeply, he began, his voice gentle yet steady, but we stand at an intersection between the stories we hold dear and the cries of those we may never meet. How do we navigate this intricate web? How can we honor our experiences while also respecting the narratives we aspire to share? Asher, ever thoughtful, furrowed his brow and considered their predicament. What if in our eagerness to speak, we overshadow the voices that need amplification? It is a delicate balance. In our desire to illuminate, we must not blind. What if our well-intentioned tales become a tapestry of our own making, neglecting the intricate patterns sought by those waiting in silence? Eliakim listened closely, his weathered face illuminated by the gentle dawn. Indeed, the journey of storytelling requires humility. Your hearts must remain open, receptive to the echoes of histories unwritten and experiences untold. The way forward is not simply to speak, but to listento dwell in the spaces that exist between your voices and the stories of others. Only then might you create the resonance needed to bridge the chasms of misunderstanding. A moment of silence fell upon the group, each member contemplating the elder's words. The chilly air was no longer a hindrance, but a reminder of their shared humanity. It was in that silence that Baruch sensed something deeper, lingering beneath layers of uncertainty, a profound yearning for connection that transcended all fears. Yet, doubt crept in anew, shaping his thoughts like clay. But how do we gauge the readiness of others? How can we tell if they are prepared to hear what we wish to reveal? What if we awaken pain that was better left undisturbed? What if our inquiries bring only despair where hope was slowly taking root? Miriam's eyes shimmered as the first rays of sunlight pierced the silence, illuminating the space between them. Perhaps it is our very vulnerability that will invite connection. By sharing our own hidden scars, we may find that others, too, carry burdens of a similar nature. It is through honesty that we create safe harbor. We cannot control how others receive our truths, yet we can meet them where they are, offering both our care and humility. If we are to be guides towards healing, then we must tread carefully, mindful of their wounds. Eliakim chose this moment to interject softly, remember that faith does not shield you from the struggles of others nor from the shadows within. Rather, it reveals the light within your own hearts, the strength to hold space for another suffering while remaining steadfast in your quest to unveil the truth. This journey is about unearthing light amidst darkness, not turning away from the pain woven throughout. Baruch nodded slowly, feeling the heavy mantle of their purpose shift anew upon his shoulders. In this collective moment of doubt and reflection, a truth crystallized for him: they would not always succeed in their efforts, but through their genuine intentions, they could nurture the seeds of connection and hope among their friends and strangers alike. As the group rose with the sun, the warmth of its light enveloping them in a gentle embrace, Baruch pondered the questions now hovering in the air, deeper and more complex than before. Would their willingness to listen and share connect them in ways that transformed not only those they spoke to, but themselves as well? And as they ventured forth on their journey, what would it mean to lean into vulnerability while remaining fortified in hope, as they stood before the daunting task of unfolding both their stories and those of the hidden voices around them? As the sun ascended, bathing the world in gold, the group set their feet upon the ancient path that wound through fields rich with promise. Baruch felt the stirring of the earth beneath him, a reminder that the land had seen myriad stories, each woven into its fabric like threads in a grand tapestry. With each step, he felt the weight of their intentions pressing against the horizon of the unknown. The morning air sang with the songs of birds, their melodies creating a backdrop of joy that contrasted with the heaviness still lingering in their hearts. Asher fell into step alongside Baruch, and a contemplative silence enveloped them. After a time, he broke the quiet. Do you feel it? The pull of unspoken stories waiting to be unearthed. Baruch paused, looking to the skies where clouds drifted lazily, each a messenger of time and space. I sense it. But does the unearthing of those stories mean we can truly comprehend them? Or merely impose our interpretations upon them? Asher nodded gravely. Perhaps the stories find their truth in the act of sharing, just as we find our truth in the act of listening. It is a circular dance, the teller and the listener entwined in the rhythm of understanding. Their conversation drew the attention of Miriam, who had been gathering wildflowers along the path. What if the act of storytelling itself holds a sacred mystery, she mused, her fingers brushing against the vibrant blooms. Each story passed down has the potential to reveal layers of wisdom, reflecting pieces of the divine within the heart of humanity. In this, we cultivate not just connection, but a communion of souls. Eliakim, who had been trailing behind, caught up to them with a knowing smile. Ah, young ones, it is indeed in the dance of sharing that we find the divine spark. As you gather these stories, remember the sacred often resides not only in the grand narratives, but in the silent, simple moments that shift the currents of our lives. What of the stories that remain hidden, whispered only in the shadows? Baruch's heart quickened at this, for he remembered the people they would soon encounter, those whose lives were woven into the fabric of society yet remained unseen. How do we honor those voices while still preserving the sanctity of their experiences? Is it enough to hear, or must we dig deeper? Miriam, her bouquet of wildflowers cradled against her chest, shared. Listening is a form of honoring. But it is only through our intentionality or commitment to understand their pain, joy, fears, and dreams that we can hope to shed light on the silence surrounding them. We must tread lightly, attuned to their needs, even as we navigate our own hearts. As they walked, following the winding path, the hills rose and fell like breath. Baruch felt the earth pulsing with an energy that was both ancient and new, weaving through their feet and stitching together their intentions. The thought of their own stories mingling with those yet unheard filled him with both excitement and trepidation, yet a question loomed large in his mind. In their pursuit to amplify the voices lost within the crowd, might they inadvertently drown out the very connections they sought to illuminate? What if, in their earnest desire to share, they created further division rather than the embrace of understanding? With these questions suspended in the air, the horizon ahead shimmered with possibility, shrouded in the quiet mystery of stories waiting to be told. Each of them was now tasked not only with their narratives but with uncertain revelations about the souls who had yet to speak. As they journeyed on, Baruch held close the thought that every footstep taken would lead them deeper into the unknown, beckoning forth the stories hidden just out of reach, but also stirring within their own hearts a question: what might they discover about themselves in this quest for truth, and how would it transform the very fabric of their journey? As Baruch and his companions pressed forward along the winding path, the air thickened with an unspoken anticipation, as if nature itself was aware of the sacred quest they had embarked upon. Trees loomed tall on either side, their branches outstretched like arms of bygone prophets yearning to impart wisdom. With each step, the group felt as though they were traversing not only the physical landscape but also the deeper, unseen terrain of their souls. The sun had climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the fields, and a gentle breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of blooming wildflowers. Yet, beneath this tranquility, there was a current, an undercurrent of apprehension humming quietly in their hearts. It was Miriam who broke the silence once again, her voice soft but resolute. "Have you ever considered," she said, her eyes scanning the horizon, "that this journey itself reflects the conflict of the stories we seek? The path ahead is not yet charted, just as the tales of those we will encounter hold complexities that are yet to be unveiled. Each story is a tapestry, interwoven with triumphs and tragedies, and we are but weavers, unsure of the threads we will gather." Eliakim nodded in agreement, adding, "Indeed, every encounter will require us to navigate the fragile balance between our understanding and the mysteries that belong solely to another. In our zeal to share, we must not forget the sacredness in allowing others to voice their truths." Baruch felt a stirring within him, a spark ignited by their words. He pondered on how often he had wished to share the profound stories of his own life, eager to find validation and connection. Yet he now recognized a profound shift in this desire. it was not merely about sharing his narrative but embracing the gift of listening. The terrain began to change, the gentle hills giving way to a rocky outcrop, rugged and steep. As they climbed, the physical labor of their ascent weighed on them, pulling their thoughts back to the struggles they would inevitably face as bearers of light in a world often shrouded in shadow. As her foot slipped on a loose stone, Miriam reached out to Baruch for support. "Sometimes, we too need to lean on one another," she said with a smile, catching her breath. Baruch nodded, grateful for the connection, realizing that they were all travelers in the vast landscape of life. "Let us be mindful," he offered, "that climbing this mountain is not just about reaching the top, but about how we encourage one another along the way. It's an invitation to share not only our strength but also our vulnerability." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting fiery shades of orange and pink across the sky, the group crested the rocky outcrop, revealing a breathtaking viewfield stretching infinitely, dotted with distant settlements. Villages where tales of old were lived daily, hidden narratives waiting to be discovered. With the world sprawling before them, Baruch felt the weight of their mission pressing heavily upon his chest. What if, he began slowly, instead of solely focusing on the stories of others, we allow our own journey to color the narratives we uncover? What if our insecurities and pasts are threads that can tie us together rather than divide us? Asher contemplated this, his brow furrowing in thought. It is a delicate interplay, isn't it? To recognize that our experiences shape our understanding, while also acknowledging that our perspectives can obscure the very truths we seek to illuminate. How do we walk this line without toppling into the chasms of misunderstanding? The question lingered, echoing against the vastness of the land. With the sunset casting long shadows behind them, the beauty before them bore witness to the myriad stories etched into the fabric of humanity, a silent reminder of the hearts they would encounter. Each soul would contain a cosmos of experiences, mysteries not meant for them alone to navigate but to unravel alongside, with care and reverence. As they stood together, the last light of day bathing them in warmth, Baruch felt the gentle pull of the unknown drawing them closer. It beckoned with the promise of truth, yet uncertainty lingered. What awaited them as they ventured into territories uncharted? How would their unfolding stories intertwine with the lives they were sworn to honor? The mysteries seemed endless, echoing a profound question: would they find unity in their shared narratives, or would they be led deeper into the heart of their own individual conflicts? As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, the cool embrace of twilight enveloped the travelers. The air carried with it not only the promise of night but also the weight of their purpose. With hearts intertwined in shared uncertainty, Baruch, Miriam, Eliakim, and Asher descended the rocky outcrop, their footsteps echoing softly against the earth. The path ahead wound into a dense grove. The trees, now silhouetted against the darkening sky, loomed like ancient sentinels, altering the light that filtered through the leaves. The cacophony of night began to emerge, crickets chirping an evening hymn and the soft rustle of small creatures hidden in the brush. In this tranquil yet vibrant space, they felt the gravity of the task ahead anchor their thoughts. Do you ever wonder, Asher began, his voice barely more than a whisper against the symphony of night, if the very act of seeking stories might transform us in unforeseen ways? Perhaps we will uncover fragments of our pasts in the lives of others, each truth a mirror reflecting back what we still need to grapple with. Miriam stopped, considering this notion. The stories we tell ourselves often shroud the truths we harbor within. By listening, perhaps we can not only understand another's journey but also illuminate hidden shadows within our own. Baruch felt a tremor in his heart at her words, resonating deeply within him. Memories of doubt and struggle flooded to the forefront of his mind. The burdens he had carried, lost dreams, unfulfilled desires, now seemed entangled with this journey. What if, he mused aloud, by sharing a sacred space with others, we uncover more than just their narratives? What if we confront our own unspoken fears, those corners of the heart we seldom dare to venture? Eliakim responded thoughtfully, there's a divine tension in this, isn't there? The more we strive to understand another's pain, the more we become vulnerable to our own. It is the very essence of compassion, the willingness to feel and acknowledge, not just their hurt but our own. As they moved deeper into the grove, the moon began its ascent, casting a ghostly glow upon their path. Shadows danced playfully among the trees, as if inviting the travelers to forsake their burdens for a moment, to find solace in the beauty of shared existence. But uncertainty still lingered, as palpable as the darkness enveloping them. "Imagine the lives that surround us," Baruch said quietly, "each individual bearing their own unique burdens and joys, like a woven tapestry. If we are to understand the fullness of their stories, we must also brave the depths of our own, revealing what we conceal in the gleam of our eyes. What if, in this exploration, we find the pieces of ourselves we've lost?" Miriam placed a hand on Baruch's shoulder, sensing the depth of his contemplation. It is both a gift and a responsibility. To step boldly into someone's narrative requires honor and humility. We must tread lightly, for the act of hearing is as sacred as the act of speaking. Further into the grove, a flicker of light danced in the distance, drawing their attention. It flickered and fluttered like a beacon in the night, a fragile flame amidst shadows. As they approached, their eyes widened to find a gathering of souls sitting around a fire, their faces illuminated by its warm glow. The crackling of wood became a soothing symphony, inviting companionship. Voices rose and fell in the gentle rhythm of shared laughter and shared stories, echoing through the night. Baruch sensed the raw intensity of many lives converging in this sacred moment and felt both anxious and exhilarated at the possibilities unfolding before them. Are these souls awaiting us? He wondered aloud, his heart stirring with excitement. Or are they just caught in their own tales, oblivious to our quest? As he posed this question, a figure emerged from the group, a woman whose eyes sparkled with wisdom, the firelight reflecting their depths. "We are all seekers here," she said softly, drawing nearer. "Each of us harboring stories yearning to be shared, truths longing to be heard. Come, join us, for it is in the telling that we may unearth the sacred spaces within ourselves." The allure of her invitation was undeniable, yet an inkling of doubt threaded through Baruch's thoughts. What hidden truths would surface in the sharing? How would the stories unfolding among these gathered souls shape their own fragile narratives? As they hesitated at the edge of the circle, one final question lingered heavy in the air. In this gathering of seekers, would they discover unity in their shared experiences, or would the breadth of their individual stories lead them deeper into the labyrinth of their own souls, unraveling hidden fears yet untouched? As the soft crackle of the fire greeting the night enveloped them, Baruch and his companions took hesitant steps toward the ring of warmth and light. Each of them felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation wash over them, as the serene glow of the flames flickered bright against the darkness surrounding their hearts. "Welcome, fellow seekers," the woman continued, her voice a soothing balm to their weary souls. "Gather around, for the night is filled with tales yearning to be told, and it is through our stories that we may discover the threads that bind us all." Baruch exchanged glances with Miriam, Asher, and Eliakim, realizing they had stepped onto a profound threshold. This was no ordinary gathering, it was a convergence of souls, each carrying within them a universe of narratives waiting to ignite connection. "Who will begin?" Another voice chimed in, full of warmth and curiosity. It was a younger man, his eyes brightened by the embers casting light on his face. The invitation hung heavy in the air, an echo waiting to be answered. Baruch's heart raced, he felt the stirrings of both fear and longing. The moment demanded courage, and he realized each of them had been climbing their own mountains of uncertainty, not just the physical ascent, but the emotional heights that came with seeking to unravel hidden truths. It felt necessary for one of them to break the silence that wrapped around them, each story an offering, a touchstone in an intricate tapestry. Gingerly, Baruch stepped forward, the warmth of the fire drawing him in. "I would like to share a story," he began, his voice quavering slightly as he felt the weight of his truth. "It is a tale that belongs to this land, a tale of loss and hope, woven through the fabric of my own existence." As he spoke, Baruch wove a narrative filled with anguish about a beloved elder who had once offered guidance but had been silenced by fear, the very fear that now stalked their own lives like a shadow. He shared how the elder had hidden a sanctuary of words, a sacred text that had laid lifeless under layers of rock. It was a place where stories lived, where faith breathed, and where fear found no home. As his story unfurled, the circle of seekers listened intently, feelings manifesting in nods and soft gasps. Baruch felt the impact of his words, the connection forming threads of understanding knitting them together. His voice, although trembling at the edges, resonated with honesty and vulnerability, igniting their own reflections. One by one, others began to share tales of despair, battles faced, and triumphs reclaimed. Each story transformed the gathering from an encounter of strangers into a chorus of shared humanity. Miriam spoke of her own struggles, of carrying the weight of unfulfilled expectations, and how through listening to others, she had learned to honor her journey. Asher shared tales of the lost dreams that had shaped him, reflections rich with light and shadow. Eliakim offered wisdom from the age, weaving lessons of love and the sacredness of suffering, urging each to embrace vulnerability as strength. The night deepened as stories unfurled like petals blooming in the moonlight, revealing souls laid bare. In each exchange, they discovered that struggle needed not to be fought in isolation. With every word spoke, the silent burdens were eased, offering moments of grace. They found solace not in the erasure of past sorrows but in the acknowledgement of shared pain, each telling an act of strength that fortified them for the difficult journey ahead. As the fire crackled low, an unexpected silence enveloped them once more. A moment of reflection passed, heavy yet rich, holding the weight of the shared experience. Baruch's heart swelled within him, for they had not only shared their stories, they had transformed them, shaping a narrative of perseverance and unity. Then the woman who had welcomed them spoke again, her voice a whisper of clarity amid the dusk. Tonight, we have not merely shared stories, we have woven a tapestry of courage, one that reminds us of our interconnectedness. The stories we carry are that of a collective spirit, echoing the truths of past and present alike. It is through our vulnerability that we forge strength, it is through our tales that we ignite conversion, both within ourselves and in those we encounter. With those words, a wave of realization washed over Baruch. In sharing their narratives, they had awakened not just their own stories but had lit the paths for others to follow. This gathering ignited a revelation that transcended beyond the evening, a renewal of faith that stories hold the power to bridge divides, forge communities, and transform lives. The fire flickered as if echoing their spirits, each flame a reminder of light that resides within despite the encroaching night. In this sacred space, a new question emerged: not how to uncover the stories of others but how to walk hand in hand with those stories and prepare to bear witness to lives at the edge of silence. Baruch felt a resolve washing over him. "Let us continue to walk this path, dear companions," he declared with newfound strength. "In opening ourselves to these stories, let us become not only tellers but listeners, guardians of truth. May we create spaces where all souls feel free to speak, where the sanctuary of shared experience offers comfort and healing." As the group nodded and agreed, a sense of purpose surged forth, filling the night air with warmth and promise. They had tasted the essence of unity, and amidst the earthly darkness, they became mindful voyagers of light. Here, within their souls lay the sacred directive: embrace every story, for in them, they would find the echoes of their own hearts, beckoning them gently toward the profound truth that they were never truly alone. And so, beneath the watchful stars and the embrace of night, the seekers kindled their dreams into action. Together, they became architects of illumination, promising the forsaken narratives would no longer linger in silence, they would resonate through corners of the world, awaiting a whisper, an acknowledgement rippling outward and transforming lives beyond their own. It was in this revelation, the understanding that stories possess an inherent sacredness, that they stepped boldly, hand in hand, into the unknown ahead, each heartbeat a testament to the enduring power of connection. As they ventured forth into the horizon, hearts ablaze with faith and reflection, they became living testament to the timeless truth: we are, indeed, all part of a grand story, intricately woven together by the threads we dare to share.